Hi everyone, Dom Famularo back again for the Artist Series at a Distance. When I get a chance to have someone like Anthony from Little Anthony and the Imperials, who I remember hearing them back in the early 60s, your music was infectious. I mean, songs like Going Out of My Head, Tears on My Pillow, Hurt So Bad. These were songs that were a part of our early childhood. Would everyone please welcome Anthony from Little Anthony and the Imperials. Anthony, it's amazing what you have done with your career and what you continue to do, which even further amazes me that you're still very active in singing and performing and doing what you do.
You know, as a kid coming up, I don't think any kid like me was really thinking out of the streets of Brooklyn. And we, you know, those days we didn't even know what we were. We were street corner singers. That's somebody actually coined us as. But then, what is it? 1973, a particular disc jockey changed that, and he started calling it doo-wop. The cats from my era don't know it as that, but that's the, you know how it is. That's the monocle. That's the thing that people know of that music, which is kind of difficult to really do that because there were so many varied singers and sounds and the way they approach things. I mean, dude. When you think about the Moonglows, with Most of All and Sincerely, Sincerely was covered about 1,000 people around the world. You think of groups like that and the Heartbeats or the Harp Tones with Willie Winfield, the Flamingos with Nate Nelson. I don't know how you call that doo-wop because we knew what doo-wop was. Yeah. As far as that, when you say doo-wop, I didn't know what I could tell you. Is I can always tell people what went on there because I was there. You understand? That's the fun part of being 81, man. I was there. So don't tell me about the book you read it in or you got on Wikipedia with all these people. It's irrelevant. I was there. So if I tell you something, you can hang your hat on it. That word came and I heard the story and I'm not really sure it was a disc jockey by the name of Gossage in New York City. I can't remember. He was trying to explain to people that sound, and this was 73, 72, what that was. And the legend is that he remembered some of the songs that some of the groups that came out of Jersey, like the Elegants and the Duprees or whatever. Not the Duprees, they were a little bit different than everybody else, but there were a lot of little groups that came out and they would have doo-woppa, 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 doo-woppa. So he just, that's doo-wop. Mm-hmm. You see how that's stuck? Yeah. But it has no connotation at all what we did. Because you cannot call songs like Going Out of My Head and Hurt So Bad doo-wop. I challenge you to do that. Yeah. And when you say, if I hear the word doo-wop, I immediately think of those groups out of the Bronx and Jersey, you know, guys out of Staten Island, man. They did those kind of sounds, you know. They were the white groups, actually. And the black groups were more soulful or more R&B. Yeah. So we knew our teaching came out of that era of the Ravens, you know, and those kind of groups. We weaned ourselves off of those kind of groups and the Flamingos, you know, those are earlier groups that came out. And so we didn't know exactly what we were, but we knew that each one of those groups had a unique sound. So you can't really say that you put a thing on it and say doo-wop. You know?
There wasn't really a label. Boy, good point. But you really had the blues and soul thing down at an early time, which was really a beautiful combination.
It was a mixture because it really comes from spiritual music, gospel music or spiritual music. And spiritual music evolved into Dixieland and Dixieland evolved into jazz. Jazz then gave birth to R&B. R&B gave birth to rock and roll. And on and on and on. And then rock and roll gave birth to hip hop. Yeah. You see how it goes? But all of them come from the mother lobe. Yeah. Which was the blues singing type thing. So groups that we came up with, which were the black groups, we were imitating one another, trying to find out, man, did you hear that? Did you hear the flamingo sound? Oh, they did that, and all that kind of stuff. And you get excited, and then you try to emulate it. Yeah. You know, and so we would come up with these kind of signs. So I can't really tell anybody what it really was, but I know one thing: it's the music. It's just the music, man. It's like we didn't know that we weren't doing anything wrong. We just knew that. Oh, if I know how to harmonize, ooh, that sounds good. And we would try it everywhere. We would try it. The best place to try it, man, is in school, because you got a captured audience, like at lunchtime, and or in the subways of New York. Did that down there because they had the tiles on the wall, which was echo, or the hallways of the projects. So we didn't know we were developing such a massive event that would change the whole face of music. We didn't know.
But how did you put the band together? Because you guys had such unique harmonies and you had such beautiful pitch the way you sang, and the blend of the band was just flawless. How did all that formulate?
Well, it's you got about 2 days. I mean, I had a little bit of an advantage, because I came out of a family that was very musical. My mom was a gospel singer with the Nazareth Baptist Gospel Singers, and my aunts were all in that group. My father was a jazz musician who played with Buddy Johnson's orchestra, quite a few other people. I was introduced to a lot of styles, pop music, jazz, Ella Fitzgerald to you name it, bebop music. So I had all of that coming at me. And so it probably subconsciously got into me as time went on. And I had this it wasn't a bit of a gift, it's a real gift from God, because even to this day, I can hear a melody within 5-10 seconds and chances are I'll remember it. Beautiful. And then it's a matter of me getting a lyric to it. It's no problem. It's just there. And it's a gift.
So where did the band get its first break when you started to formulate?
Well, because it was a series of things that happened. I was with a group called the DuPonts. I was with groups before that. Everybody was doing it like the rappers are doing today, which is called urban music, urban rapping. Same with my day. Everybody wanted to be in a singing group, especially black cats, because we wanted to be like those groups that we heard on Dr. Jive and WWRL in New York, Tommy Smalls, and then came later Alan Reed, who everybody thought was black at the time. But when I was with this group called the DuPonts, we were okay. I mean, I heard some groups in my school that blew us out of the room. One was the Velours. I don't know if you heard of the group called the Velours.
Yes, many years ago, yeah.
Yes, they had a great bass singer, Moffat. I think it's something Moffat was his name. And they were in my school. Richie Havens was in my school. There were a lot of people that were better than us, that DuPonts were. In retrospect and hindsight, that gift I was talking about was showing itself up. I didn't know that I was becoming a front man. I just was a part of the group. But everybody would always say, oh, no, let him sing it. Let him lead the song.
So was it
when I got with the group from the DuPonts, Clarence Collins was a childhood friend and chum. And he lived across the way from me in Fort Greene Projects. And he used to hear me sing, and he heard the DuPonts sing, and he said, boy, that's pretty cool. And one day we went to a place, and I don't know where it was, some school somewhere. Schools were great in those days because we could go into the gym, and they made a lot of things available to young people in those days. Today, nothing's gone. I can hear how good Clarence's group was. He had a group called the Chesters. And I really loved that guy, especially that bass singer, Ronald Ross. And we used to have this thing called Battle of the Groups in the schools.
Nice.
And just kids getting together trying to outdo each other. It's like the rappers that battle rapping. Yeah, same thing. They would win all the time. And our favorite song at the time was from the Moonglows. We used to sing Most of All. And I led that song. It was killing people. But when we get with the Chester, they really didn't have a real front man. Because Ernest, who's one of the Imperials, he was their front man. When Clarence called me one day and said, hey, dude, I know this guy called Richard Barrett, and he's with the group called the Valentines. And man, he's the one that discovered Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and they're all in the same record company called Gordon and N Records. And the guy up there, the head of that place is called George Goldner. And that Richard Barrett was the A&R man there, artist and repertoire dude.
Right.
And so, man, if you come over, man, I think we can get us a contract. Right off the bat, I'm thinking, well, dude, I don't sing with your group. I sing with the DuPonts. But he convinced me. He said, "Man, I'm telling you, it's a hit record, and we can record right away." Well, he said the magic word, record right away. Okay. I went with him, and we took the subway over there to 1650 Broadway, between 6th and Broadway. And we went up there, and that was a mecca of independent record companies, by the way. And they had a very famous recording studio around there called Bell Sound.
Yeah.
And we went up there, and I walked in the office of Richard Barrett's office. And prior to that, I didn't sing with them, so I didn't really have any songs to sing. But Ernest wrote a song called Just Two Kinds of People in the World. Now, he had the lyrics, some of the lyrics to it, but they didn't really have, the group was the lead. In other words, the group was singing the choruses, basically. I had no place to really sing. And I remember, and I went with them. I was just doing it. It's a lark. I don't know. And I went with them. And then I thought, he wanted me to, he says, "Are you ready?" We said, "No, wait a minute." And I went off in the corner. And I remembered a song by the Paragons called "The Closer You Are." The closer you are. Well, that's just two people in the world. All I did was emulate what he was doing to fit the music. In other words, my instincts and whatever talent I had, I just wailed on top of the melody that they were doing in the chorus. Just two kinds of people. That kind of thing. They were singing the chorus. And Richard Barrett was in this big chair, and he's listening. He goes, wait a minute. Stop for a minute. He gets on the phone, and he calls George in the next office. "George, you better get over here." And I'm wondering, what did we do? What happened? Oh, shoot. George Gold, that's the only guy, the president, you know? And I'm thinking, what did I do? You know, I didn't think nothing was going to happen. And George Golden came in, he says, "Okay, sing that song again." And we went through that's two guys. And George says, "Listen, can we get your parents out here? We'd like to discuss recording you guys."
How old are you at that time?
I was 17. I was 17 in January. And this was the summer of 1958. Just before the summer, it was the spring, because I was in summer school because I screwed up in boys' high school. And they told my mother, wanted me to graduate, and I got to go to summer school. So I was doing this at the summer school time. How I pulled it off without being, get a truant thing, I don't know. But I ended up going there, and they're getting all excited about this thing. And I heard one of the Chantels was outside the door, and we came out. I remember, I don't know which one it was, said, "You man, who's that one was singing all that high part stuff?" And they were him. Oh man, that was wow. I'm getting all this kind of feedback, and I'm wondering, am I that good? Because I never thought of it that way. I paid you to go and record, Yeah. I just want to be heard on the radio, so there'd be more girls. Yeah, I had no vision of how it would be someday, nor for that fact, to be in the business for that long and be successful at a higher rate. Or did I see a day would come? There was no Rock and Roll Hall of Fame then. Wasn't invented yet. I didn't know all these things were going to happen, but there I was. And when it happened fast.
So how did the development of Little Anthony and the Imperials, was it Alan Freed that gave you the Little Anthony line?
Yeah, in fact, the Imperials, that name was changed to the Imperials from the Chesters. Now I said I went with the Chesters, Clarence with the Chesters, because there was a man there who was their public relations man by the name of Lou Galley. And Lou, I can see it now, Lou's sitting there by the window, and he's shaking his head. He's sucking his teeth. Chester's, George. Hey, George, you got to sign those kids. That name that's no pizzazz, nothing. I got to get a name. So George said, "Well, think of a name." And he turns, and this is a true story. He's just looking out the window, and he sees the Imperial Chrysler. It says Imperial on the side of it. And he says, "How about the Imperials?" That's how simple that was.
Incredible.
And then that was done. We recorded Tears in My Pillow. He gave us a song to sing. Well, we had another song was called Cha Cha Henry that Ernest wrote too. And he had it on the back. He wrote it, but it was just, regular sort of a doo-wop, you want to call that just so that everybody can understand type song. And so George said, it isn't doing anything because, as you know, records were two-sided records.
Yeah.
45 records or 78 records with two sides, A side and the B side. So generally you would take your worst song and throw it in the back or just to have a B side. You didn't really care. But this song, the way Ernest was doing, just didn't do anything. And maybe it was because once George Goldner, Mr. Goldner, heard me, who knows? He probably said, "Oh gosh, how can you top that?" And he wanted me to be on the back side. And so he says, "We're going to record just two kinds of people in the world." And it's a true story, man. Straight up, dude. It's like you couldn't even create this in the movies. He says, it came when I did just two kinds of people in the world. Of course, that's what got us the deal. It was better than what they thought it was. We said, this is going to be a smash. You could hear the people talking. And I saw George, but George Golden was sitting behind in the control booth, behind the glass. And people don't realize we're in the studio with the phones in front, microphones in front of us and all that kind of stuff. And the band's in the corner, because those days the band played with you in the studio. And there's a big window, and they're on the other side of the window. And I was looking at George, and I could see him like, oh, that's wait a minute, guys, hold up. Great take, you guys. But listen, that song Cha Cha Henry, this is not happening. And so he said, "Hey, listen, I gave one of your guys, it was Ernest Wright, one of the Imperials, a song called Tears on My Pillow." He said, "Did you guys listen to that?" And I didn't even know what the Tears on My Pillow was. Because Clarence had gotten it prior to getting me to go down there, because he knew Clarence knew that Ernest wasn't strong enough to get them a record deal. And he knew me by hearing me sing in all the different places. He didn't care about the group, but he heard me. And he said, "I think this guy can take us over the top." And so George turned around and said, "Listen, I'm going to give a break to the band, everybody. I'm going to take a 30 minutes, everybody. You guys go in that room and come out with something." And we went in the room, and because I had the ability to pick up the melody very quickly, I got it, And so the group was stumbling. They didn't know what to do. So I don't know who said it, Don. I don't know if somebody said, "Well, what about that? Wait a minute. That song, Earth Angel. I don't know who it was. I can't remember. But I remember that. And if you listen to Earth Angel, the background chorus is Earth Angel, and the group is doing ooh, ooh. We were notorious for stealing stuff one of the days. And so they got that, came back, and now let's listen to Tears on My Pillow. You don't remember me? Ooh, they went from oh to ooh, same thing. Yeah. No different. But it fit the song. Yeah. George Goldner, and then George says to me, "That's really good, Anthony. We're on it, but there's something, can you sing like you talk?" And I'm going, "Well, how do I talk?" He said, "You talk you have a high voice, but you're trying to sound, like I want you, I know how you did that thing in two people. I want that in the regular verses. I want you can you do that?" He said, "Who's your favorite singer?" I said, "I don't know, a lot of people, man." He said, "You like Nat Cole?" I said, "I love Nat King Cole." Now, you hear how he enunciates his words and be really clear, and how he takes the syllables, each syllable. "They try to tell us we're too young," right? Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, that's how he sings. So what I did was, you don't remember me, very instinctively on each syllable. Don't know what I'm doing. I was just trying to follow what he said. Who knows what's going to turn my life around? It was George Golner, President George Golner, that did that. Now, getting to what you said about where Little Anthony come from. The original recording, they were so happy with it, they put it out as the Imperials. Now, legend says that there was a record promoter that they used, went into WINS Winds in New York, the Alan Freed. In those days, the disc jockeys were the rule. They were the law. They can see a song, they don't like it, they throw it in the basket. They just have to like it. He says, yeah, we want you to really play this. We want you to push this record, whatever they do. And he played it for Alan. And Alan said that, and this is a long story. I knew Alan before that, but that's another story. But he didn't know it was me from the DuPonts, because I actually worked with him in the DuPonts. So he heard it and he said, whoa, that girl can sing. And the guy said, that's no girl, that's a guy. He said, a guy? He must be awfully little. Boom, little. What's his name? Anthony. He went on the radio, ladies and gentlemen, the next song is going to be, did the whole bit. Little Anthony and the Imperials. They cut me out of the herd. Just like they do with a lot of people, like Smokey Robinson was cut out, Diana Ross was cut out.
Yeah.
And I can go on and on.
Yeah.
Because what happens with people like us is we're in another level. Even though we may sing with a group, we stand out.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of people like that, but they never, and for whatever reason, I'm sure they were asked by record companies to become a solo act, like the Four Tops with Levi, right? Levi said, no, I'm not leaving the guys. And I heard many stories. Nate Nelson with the Flamingos could have been great. Well, in answering that, which took me an hour and a half to get to, little Effie, that was it. It blew up.
Beautiful.
Blew up.
Beautiful.
And the focus now is not on the Imperials, but on me.
So this begins the process now. We're all sudden now you become Little Anthony and the Imperials. But now this is where it all kind of exploded.
Yep.
All of a sudden now, television came in. Tell me about American Bandstand and Dick Clark.
Well, I met, before, let me go back to Alan for a minute. I was with the DuPonts in 1956. I got to be an opening act with one of Alan Freed's shows. So he didn't know who I was. And in that show was a man by the name of Teddy Randazzo, who was with a group called the Chuckles. Now, if anybody wants to know who Teddy Randazzo is, I'll tell you who Teddy Randazzo is. He wrote Going Out of My Head, Hurt So Bad, Take Me Back, I Miss You So, I'm on the Outside Looking In, Can I Go On? He was right next to me in the dressing room, and he once said, he would stand in the wings, and he said, and here's a funny, ironic thing about all this, how I believe, I'm a man of faith, how God can take a person and the least expected out of that person and make something happen with it.
Yeah. And
he said to me, boy, your voice is really interesting. He said, you know, one of these days we're going to work together. That was 7 years before we got together. So that all these little pieces are all in that question you asked me. How did we get started? Yeah. If I would have told you, well, we got started like this and that, no, it's complicated.
Took time.
Everything that I've done has been is as if it's all been waiting for me to step into it.
Yeah.
Even with the Imperials, we started doing stuff the way ahead of everybody. We did the first pop album any sing group ever did, an album called The Shades of the 40s. When I did a complete thing on Sinatra, all the hits he had in the 40s. Only group that did that, but we were so ahead of our time, the public couldn't handle that. No, wait a minute, what is that? I don't know, I ain't rock and roll, right? Sometimes I listen to that old album and I say to myself, my gosh, my range was so high.
Yeah.
But I realized that, wait a minute, we were ahead of everybody. We were moving another direction. Teddy Randazzo saw that when we finally hooked up again with that, I'm going to work with you, kid, one of these days.
Boy, how beautiful. The fact that it almost seemed like everything was kind of preordained and predestined. You were just kind of going from step by step.
Yes.
And then you start, as I said, with television, where all of a sudden now American Bandstand hits off, where now all of a sudden the younger generation is visually seeing what you're doing at that level. What was that like working with Dick Clark?
We weren't looking for him. He was looking for us. When we got the call that we were going to be on Dick Clark, we were excited like anybody would be. We were the first Black group that ever sang its own hit record on that show, because they were like a cover singers. They just sang the records that were hits.
Right.
Mr. Goldner told him, you got to hear this kid. You got to have this kid on TV like that. He said, I'm not going to give the permission unless you let them sing the song. Let him sing it. And I mean, and it was, call it segregation or whatever you want to call it, but it wasn't done in those days.
Yeah.
But I guess they wanted it so bad. Someone said, what? Let them on. We went on that TV show, and I said, you don't remember me? And it blew up. And then we went to Dick Clark right after that. It blew up more, and we kept growing and growing and growing.
It's amazing at that time in the 50s and 60s, you mentioned about segregation. You were touring into all different areas. What was it like with the sign of the times at that time?
It was brutal. Like a lot of people, I hear people today, this is a racist, you're a racist, who's a racist, everybody's racist. Yo, shut up, you don't know what racism is. I lived it. Yeah. Remember I said I was there?
Yeah.
I can set the record straight. I was there. That's the fun about being my age. I experienced it. Every rotten moment of it.
Yeah.
That turned me very sour on the business.
Yeah.
Because I'm a kid from Brooklyn. Of course, there's race things and problems, but it's subtle. Nobody didn't put a sign up or you can't do this. I went to the movies like every other kid. I did whatever I wanted. I go to get a hot dog. I go to a restaurant with my mom. Nobody said you can't come in here. My mother is from the South, from Savannah, Georgia. And my dad is from Charleston, South Carolina. And they sat me down and warned me. Now, when you go, son, on this tour, it's called The Biggest Show of Stars. You are going to experience something you've never really experienced before. And in such a way, it's not going to be easy. Well, you hear that stuff, but you're not thinking about it. I mean, I heard stuff on TV and the news, but you're not going to relate to it. It doesn't affect you. Until it affects you, you don't really think about it. That's the way it is today, until it affects you.
Did you protest at any time?
Yes, yeah. One time almost got me killed. Yeah, I did. I wasn't a hero. Oh, come on. I just knew something is awfully wrong here. How can we sing for a white audience and then sing for a Black audience? That doesn't make sense. They all broke the record. That is really dumb in my young mind. Even then, I could figure that out. Yeah. Now, if you said that I did not know I was Black, yeah, I know it. I look in the mirror every morning. I'm Black. But I never experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
And only if you're there to experience it, and the people who live that, my God, God bless them. Because as soon as I got to Richmond, Virginia on the tour, the first thing I'm looking for, we got to go in a hotel. Listen, folks, we're going to be going over there to the guest houses. And on that tour, when I did that tour, was Laverne Baker and Bo Diddley, and they were my teachers. They helped me to how to navigate this ridiculous garbage.
Yeah.
And hey, man, you can't do that, or you can't do. Listen, man, you're out of New York, man. You got to be cool. Shut your mouth up and listen to us. And it did. It probably saved my life because I'm a little hot-head Brooklyn, little criminal out of Brooklyn, man, with little gangs I was in and stuff. You fight. No, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm facing what Jackie Robinson faced, what other people I read about had faced, but never really until it happened to me. And I had one incident. We were on one of the tours, and we went to Birmingham, Alabama, and when I don't remember where we played, an auditorium that actually had a stage. If you can imagine this in your imagination, the audience can imagine this. One side was Black and one side was white. Now, who do you sing to? Well, the people running everything, you sing to the white audience, but I got to turn my back to my people.
Yeah.
They bought the records. They were excited about seeing us.
Yeah.
What do? The beginning of who I am today began to develop as being a leader. That's the problem. We don't have leader. We had a leader, but we don't have leaders now in everything. And what happened was taking approach that leadership in my mind, that very thing that God gave me as an individual human being, be able to sing and do the things that affected Mr. George Golden or Richard Barrett or anybody else. There was more to me than that. I didn't know that. I'm from Brooklyn. What do I know? But I stood there and said, hey guys, I ain't going to sing. I'm going to sing to the wall. And the guy member Ernest said, oh man, we can't do that. I said, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I'm singing to the wall. And we did. The Black audience went crazy. They were so proud. I don't know if we were the first to do that. I don't know. But I did. Because everybody in the show, Laverne Baker and them called me, are you crazy? What you did? I just felt, I knew I had to do something. I didn't think, well, I could hurt your career or I could do this or that. I just felt my feelings hurt. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
And in Brooklyn, there's a kid coming up in the streets and any kids. Man, you deal with that. If somebody hurt your feelings, you deal with it. And that's what I did. And that caused us that night when we were getting on the bus to leave, there were shots fired out. We found out later the bus driver pulled that thing and said, everybody get down. They shot up our bus. They missed the bus. They were trying to kill us. For what I did. I had to answer to Bo Diddley and all these people. He said, don't you ever do that again. We got a whole tour here. We got to make this money. I said, okay, but I couldn't do that, you know. I've had so many incidents. It was much up to rank 62, 63, 63. We were 64. Yeah, we were doing the University of Tennessee. And we did a lot of colleges in those days. That's where I met George Carlin and Buddy Rich and all these people. Buddy Rich actually backed us up. So I got to meet these wonderful people. And they were even segregating in these well-known, what do they call it, the volunteers in Tennessee, that famous college, University of Tennessee. Yeah. And they told us, well, what happened was, I don't remember we got a call or what. I do not remember that. It's a long time ago. But I remember that these kids, these very highly educated, wonderful young Black kids came to my hotel room. And they said, can we talk to you, Mr. Gordine, Mr. Little Anthony, whatever they said. And they told me what they were trying to do in the civil rights movement at that time. He said, if you go in and sing in there, it destroys everything we're doing. That's segregated. You can't do that. Well, now here's where the leadership comes in again. Now, wait a minute. And part of me saying, you can't, oh no, man, you remember how you got in trouble with all the people in the show and on the bus, and man, you got the bus shot up. No, you can't do that. But they looked at me and they gave me a look of, you can make it, you can change this. And I go, by not singing? Yeah. So you can't do it unless the school is integrated for shows. Well, we were big, man. You can do a lot when you got some leverage. We're signed contract, dude. And sent in the money. You know, University of Miami. You talk about lawsuits? I didn't know that. I'm from Brooklyn, for goodness sakes. I just got out of high school. What do I know? I never been no farther than Jersey. Now I'm in the South. And I'm facing all these challenges. And I don't like them anyway. But when I saw the passion in their eyes and their face, I said, okay. And I told the guys, man, you crazy, man. We got to do this, man. We got to be in contract. And what if you don't do this? Oh, man, we're going to be sued. Oh. And I said, I'm not doing it. So you can't, that's the fun about it being a Little Anthony or Smokey Robinson. You're the lead voice. People come to hear that voice. And I said, no. And then they said, we will sleep outside of your room because there may be trouble from the white groups of people who Ku Klux Klan, whoever, bunch of whatever they are. You know what those kids did, Don? They slept outside my door all night long on chairs protecting me. God, I never seen them again. Maybe some of them became lawyers. maybe congressman. I don't know. I'd rather many people said, hey, remember me? I was at the cop. You really changed my life. And all these little things like that. What I realized as individuals, you can just one person at a time. Because what I found out was you may do something that be one person, but that one person will go off and tell 10 other people. 10 other people will tell 50 people. And boom, you got a movement. And when I did that, I didn't get shot up. I got up that morning, we got on the plane and we left. I can tell you stories, make your hair curl of what happened to us. I was on Biggest Show of Stars. And I did about 4 or 5 tours with them. They had a thing with the bus. If you were fooling around and you didn't get no sleep, you partying and drinking or something, you had a half hour to be on that bus. And if you missed that half hour, you're left. Now, your job is to get to the next place. That's your expense. That's your problem. Okay? That's the rules. That's the law. And I overslept. And the bus left me. And I went down into the lobby. I said, oh, my gosh, what am I going to do? You know, they didn't have any concierge in the hotel or anything. What am I going to do? And at that moment, Lloyd Price was coming down the stairs. Now, Lloyd never was in the bus with us. So Lloyd came down and said, hey, man, hey, man. And Lloyd became my dear friend to the day, just passed on, yes. And Lloyd said to me, what happened, man? Ain't you supposed to be with the bus? I said, man, I saw this little girl, man, you know, I got to bed late. He said, well, you might as well get in the car with me. And I did. And I felt good. Oh, gosh, I'm going to make the gig. Oh, crap. And I'm in the car with him and I don't know who else, not many of them, maybe 2 other people. We came into a gas station in Alabama. And there was a sign that was up above as you leave the city, said, don't let the sun go down on no niggas. That's what it said. A big sign in a major city.
Incredible.
I said, what is this? And we were doing that, and all of a sudden, this big cop car comes up, and this cat gets out, man, with this giant gun. His hip. He's going, hey, look here, who owns this here car? And it wasn't me, him. Boy. And I said, well, what's the problem, sir? What you doing going through this town doing 35 miles per hour? Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I was only doing 40. Listen, y'all, I'm going to have to take y'all in. What? I done missed the bus. Now this. And I'm all happy because I'm getting to the gig and fulfilling my contract. Now I'm going to be held up in jail. And the guy said, well, what y'all doing down here anyhow? Where you from? I said, I'm from Brooklyn and whatever. And Lloyd's from Louisiana, so he knows. And he said, well, we're here singing, sir. We the all entertainers. That man that's called Little Anthony Imperials. And I'm Lloyd Price. And he said, that little Anthony back there. Well, if you kidding me, it can't be him. Let me see. And he looked in the car. Well, I'll be damn, it's him, you know? And he said, you Lloyd Price, you mean that song, Personality? So he said, sing that song for me, because I got to find out who you are. So Lloyd said, Personality. True story. And that guy loved it. He said, you gotta go and get out of here. Well, I love your music. Get on out of here.
Unbelievable.
With our lives.
Music saved us again. That's fantastic.
Saved us again.
But tell me about Sammy Davis Jr. You got close to Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, I
What
did.
did you learn from him, and what was it like he was a huge star, but you got to know him pretty well.
Yes, I did. But the Sammy Davis was because actually started with 2 people. One who was a skip trainer of the Trainers, who was very, very close with Sammy, and that's like a little brother. And Sammy would always call him Skippy. Well, I was close to the Trainers. You know, they were one of the greatest show bands in the world at that time.
Yeah.
So Skip was talking about Sammy Davis, and it happened that there was this girl. He left this other girl because he was trying to cover what he was doing with My Brit. In his show, her name was Joni Gore. Joni Gore, we went to school together in Brooklyn. She was a dancer. she was a very good dancer even then, but she now became a big, really professional dancer. She was in the show. Well, he married her, but she was going by the name of Altaviz. So I didn't know that was the same person until Skip introduced me somewhere in Vegas, I don't know. And I said, wow. And I said, Joni Gore, I didn't know that was you. And she said, I knew you. I told Sammy, I know him. He came up in my neighborhood. And Sammy said, yeah, right. You know, Sammy, he don't care. He's one of the big stars. He had his own problems with segregation and everything else. But anyway, yeah, right. So every time I would Skip, Skip would be with him and he's in town. Skip would call me and say, man, come on, man. Let's go hang with Sammy. I said, but he don't know me. He said, you with me, man. It's good. And we went, and that's where I started meeting some very interesting people. And I ended up going to his office and hanging out with him. And there was another comedian friend of his. And he invited me one day. He says, man, Sammy's doing a play. I went to the play. And then we went backstage with Skip. And I actually walked in the room, and there was Sammy Davis. Yeah, man. You know, he's like short. Hey, man. Hey, and he tells us out the V's, Joni, is this the guy you talking about? Yeah, I heard your song. That's pretty good, man. Yeah. She said, dang, girl, you know everybody from Brooklyn. She said, yeah, that's where I'm from. So we got to talking, and I was so tentative. I always have been with all artists. I was always respectful to those who come before me because I knew they knew more than me. Yeah. Like Mom's Baby told me, baby, there's only one way to do. You got to do in this business. You got to know how to. You got to know how to lead, enter the show, and lead the show. And then Sammy Davis taught me the same thing in another way. He said you have to your first song, you have to lay them out. The last song got to lay them out. In the middle of the show will take care of itself. Yeah. These little tips all through my life. Listen to people from Dizzy Gillespie on, all of them. They would give me a little tip. That's why I tell people when they say, "Oh, you knew these people? Oh, they passed on." Oh, that's so sad. That's nothing sad. It's still alive somewhat in me. Yeah. Because I use every formula they ever taught me. Being with Sammy was a trip because he would hold court. He would get mad if I asked him something. I said one day, this is happening to us, man. Right? We thought we were going to open it. We thought we were going to be. He said, would you shut up? Yeah. You know what I went through? Sammy would always do that. He'd always go back. Did you ever read the book, Yes, I Can?
Yes, fantastic.
Well, before he read the book, I already knew what was in the book. He told me all the time. Like, he held court, dude. And I felt that Skip said, you know why? He likes you, man. He sees something in you. He did so much.
I think what's amazing, Anthony, is that you come from a time, from an era that when we hear these names like Sammy Davis Jr., these are huge stars.
Yes.
that were just so powerful. The fact that you knew them and hung out with them and learned from them, yes. You really are absolutely a national treasure. I've got many more names I want to throw at you. That
I want to all day long. Probably I know them. I never met Sinatra, though. If you take Sinatra, I know him. I thought you still about Sinatra when we get to it.
I know you know a lot of these names, and what's interesting is that you've met these people and that you had relationships with them, yes. And that you learned from them.
Yes, I did.
And you took from them into your act, and you evolved, and you kept on evolving.
Yes, and that was probably one of the as you said that, man, one of the things is that we, as me being the head man or the front man, you know, little Anthony, and I always used to stand in the wings in the Apollo. I just saw a thing the other day, man. It was on Facebook. It had somebody put in an actual what they call them, placards or something of a show I did in Apollo, and on there says Sam Cooke, Little Anthony Imperials, and introducing Aretha Franklin. Mm. Now think about that. I was on that show, the Apollo, and Bunny Briggs was a dancer, one of the greatest tap dancers ever lived. Well, you see, I came into the tail end of vaudeville. Yeah. And I played the Chitlin circuit. That's how you had to go as a black artist. Nowhere else to work. Yeah. So we played the Regal in Chicago, the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C., the Apollo Theater in Harlem in New York City, the what's the name of this other place in Richmond, Virginia, State Theater in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
And all these places. And on those shows, man, were like some of the greatest performers that ever performed. Maybe 7, 8, 9 acts at the Apollo. Or in Washington, D.C., I met this young man that I actually never really met, but my mother knew him when he was singing gospel. His name was Sam Cooke. And Sam Cooke used to sing with the Soul Stirrers gospel group. Yeah. He used to stay in these guest houses because of how things were in those days. And my aunts were the ones that were singers. They would put up these different gospel singers. So he knew my aunt Sarah. My aunt Sarah, well, her name was Sarah Ford. And he would say, hey, you Miss Ford's kid? And I said, that's my aunt. I knew it, he said. And when I met him was at, the first time I met him was Howard Theater. And one of the things he noticed about me, I always was standing in the wings. When everybody else is off someplace eating, I want to see the other acts. Was there something in me said, I better watch these guys, man. Because I had a hunger to know what everybody else was doing. Because coming out of vaudeville, man, you better be good on that stage. And what a lot of people don't realize is that I was a young child, really groomed by my mother, who was the first person to really see there was something there. Mm-hmm. So my mom had put me in classes of acting classes, and there used to be a show on TV called the Star Time Studio Show or something. And they would have all these kids that would give their, Sugar Child was playing the piano. All these people would go, and if they win a prize or they may win a week at their Apollo, whatever. She put me in that school. And you got to understand, my mother was not a wealthy lady of any kind. She really gave everything she could have done for herself. She saw something in me. So she was a stage mother, yeah. And she introduced me to the world of acting. And then from acting, I got into like little small plays, community plays, one play after another. And I did a big play called Life with Father. That left to somebody else. And then I began to study. Somebody says, well, you need to study. Well, I went to New York Dramatic Arts Studios. Doing this interview for me is very, very important. And I thank you for it because it gives me an opportunity to tell people whatever you thought I was, it's not easy. Yeah. I'm more than what you think. The vision and things that I see, you shake your head and go, what? But I've learned is those dreams have come true in many ways, what I saw and visualized. And met people I would have never met. This little nappy-haired black kid out of Brooklyn, there wasn't going to be a brain surgeon. And because he could sing different than everybody else, it took me all the way to this interview and still got me going.
What's amazing, Anthony, is that there's so much information that you have. You realize there has to be a book and probably eventually a movie that's got to come out of this.
People always say that, but you know what? I don't care. What I care about really is when they told me about your show and what was going down, my son, Tony, I said, oh yeah. I said, man, please, is this going to be like, I can really talk about who I am and my dreams, my hopes, my fears. I want people to know I got flesh and blood and I have dreams like they do. I change my pants like they do. The only difference between me and the average person is I have to sing, but I know what it is to be out there and having to make your way, But
what's amazing, Anthony, is you lived in a time where there was so much change going on, but equally as there was change going on in the music industry, there were serious challenges for you.
Yeah.
At the same time, but you seem to overcome these challenges. I'm going to just throw some quick names at you. I want you to just give me a real quick thought of each of these names because these are legends. Smokey Robinson.
Yes, Smokey. I met Smokey in 1958. In fact, it was written already the other day. He verified what I was saying, so I wasn't exaggerating. I met him at Pete Moore. They were up, and another man who used to be Barry Gordy. I met Barry when he was a stock writer, and he was trying to get a distribution deal, I believe. And I remember when I came into the office, this was around 1960, and I walked into the office. Mr. Gold had me there for something. I don't know. We were there to learn Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Pop, and which I hated, but I had to do it. So I went there, and this skinny, wiry, little light-skinned dude, and this other dude And of course, I saw Barry, and the first thing I said, "Oh man, Barry, hey, what's up, man?" I knew him, and yeah. And then I found out that they were there trying to get a distribution deal. This is a fact. I just happened to be there when they didn't get what they wanted. They left to go to Detroit. The rest is history.
And that whole Detroit sound opened up. It's incredible. Yeah. Tell me about Muhammad Ali.
Ali, he was notorious. I met him he had just 64. He had just beat Sonny Liston. And everybody knew him as Cassius Clay at that time.
Yeah.
So he wasn't Muhammad Ali yet. A few months later, he changed his name. I didn't know his manager, Dundee, was a very tight friend with Don Costa. Don Costa was the president of Don Costa Productions, where all those great songs were recorded with Teddy Randazzo. Mm. When we were doing Going Out of My Head, I had a 40-piece, 50, 60-piece orchestra in there. It was beautiful. First time we ever worked with violins and big. You see my progression now? I went from the little four. I keep growing. Yeah. And so when I was in the booth singing, the group had their own booth, and we had girl singers. 3 girls, they were professional singers. They were in another booth, and I was in my own booth. But it was facing the control room, like I always do. Even when I go today, I want to see the people in the control room, just have it. And I saw this guy up there, and I looked up like this, but I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. I'm not thinking much about anything. But I see this guy. And so I'm singing, maybe it's the second or third take of Going Out of My Head. We nailed it. I nailed it on the third take. And I saw Teddy go in his chair. Teddy would rock back and forth like this. And he's rocking. Whenever Teddy would rock, something's good happening to him. Something's turned him on. And I saw Don Costa going, yeah. And this guy was animated up there. So who the heck is that? And so they had a break for the musicians because we had to do something else. And all of a sudden, Don comes downstairs with Dundee, and I'm looking. Oh, I said, "Champ!" That's the first thing I said out of my mouth. "Champ, yeah, man. Oh, I can sing better than you. I can sing better than you." And then this ain't finished now. You want to get a verification on this? You call Ernest Wright. Any of those guys will tell you the same story. They were there. He's walking around the studio. Everybody left. Well, the concert master left his violin on the chair. Now, this violin, but people don't realize, is a Stradivarius. A Stradivarius, the cheapest one you get, is over $200,000, $150,000 to $200,000.
Exactly.
Right. So and the guy came out of the bathroom wherever he was a concert master. He said, oh, Mr. Clay, oh, please. And he didn't know he was doing anything wrong. He's like a kid. He was like a big kid. He loved life. The day I've known him, man, he always had me laughing. Even my kids today, my son Tony, you talk to, he used to box with Tony. Tony was little. Yeah, Tony remembers that. He said it was great. And Don Costa told him, "No, man, that's a Stradivarius." He said, "Well, I'm sorry. I didn't know, I don't know." And we talked, and there he was. And he kept saying, "Remember, I can sing better than you." All through my career, up to before he got Parkinson's disease, he would show up at every gig, and not just me, the Pips, anybody he loved. He loved that Motown and Little Anthony Imperials and Dionne Warwick. He loved that stuff. Yeah. And he would just, when he wasn't doing whatever he was doing, he'd show up. If he was in town, he would show up. I was in a nightclub in Miami, Florida. It's called the Lighthouse on Collins Avenue. And we're singing, and I'm singing, and the place is packed. And everybody saying, yeah, and everybody's going, yeah. And I hear, "I can sing better than you. I can sing better. You can't sing as good as me. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest singer. I'm the greatest this." I said, "Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the champ."
Well, this just shows the power of all these great legends, of how they were also so inspired by music too. Two more names I want to throw at you, okay? James Brown.
Yeah, James. James was a complicated cat, though I knew him, but then I didn't know him. His whole life was a trauma, he was in prison for manslaughter.
Yeah.
He was not trustful and plus he lived in the South, Augusta, Georgia. And so he faced all that, his life, all that. He just warped him a little bit, I think. But he was such a talent, but he liked me. He did. He liked me a lot because he would always say, "Hey, Ann." I said, "What?" He said, "How long have we been doing this?" I said, well, "You've been doing it longer than me." I said, "Sure." He said, "We've been doing this a long time, huh?" I said, "Yeah, man."
Great stories. One more name that I have an ending question for you.
Yeah.
Elvis,
yeah. Met Elvis. He was on the tour again. Was one of the biggest show stars. Well, he came to see Chuck Berry. We were on the show with Chuck Berry at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. And he was in town. He came to see Chuck Berry. And of course, we meet the other acts. And I was one of the other acts from Little Anthony Imperials. And I met him. And when the first time I saw him, I just saw him. I said, I saw this guy in that movie, Love Me Tender. And oh my goodness, that's the guy. I knew he was. And I'm going, whoa, and he was so down to earth, so comforting, and I ain't blowing smoke, dude. That's one nice dude. Everybody in the business will tell you, they give you shirt off his back. I saw him give a Rolex watch to Teddy Randazzo. So here, you like that watch? Here. In Las Vegas. Yeah. And then he liked Clarence. Clarence and him, when they first hit it off, I don't know because Clarence loved guns. And they used to go out at night and shoot in the desert. At night, they'd ride out because he couldn't go nowhere. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. When there was a fight with Foreman, but I can't remember who Foreman was fighting. He said, "You want to go to see the fight?" And we all said, "Yeah," because he was playing in the main room at that time. It was called the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas, and Red Fox, myself, and Bobby Vinton were playing in the theater. So he was a good friend of Red Fox. He knew Red Fox a long time. And he invited all. He said, "You guys, I want you to all come." Because one day we were sitting out in Bobby Vinton came in my dressing room. His dressing room right next to ours. He said, "Man, do you know who's out there in the audience?" I said, "Who?" "Elvis Presley. They cleared the room, man." And this guy comes in back. His name was Estabito. Was one of the Memphis Mafia. They called the guys that surrounded him. But I got to friendly with him. We just became friends up to this day. He's living in Palm Springs. And that's how I met him. And it was just everywhere we go. And then I'll tell you a little story real quick here. We're working in the place called the Jewel Box nightclub at the Americana Hotel on 6th Avenue in New York City, which was in those days, the Coppola, those kind of places were the top of the line. And we were there with Godfrey Cambridge and a little dance group. I think they were called Hines and Dad. Yeah. Gregory Hines.
Yeah, sure.
Who was my neighbor in Brooklyn, so I knew him.
Interesting.
And Maurice and the dad. I know them all. Well, Brooklyn guys.
Well, and names.
So this was a big to do. It was about the time when Priscilla was breaking up with him, and they had a lot of problems and this and that. And I guess he was trying to win her back or something. So she wanted to go to New York, but he couldn't go. But he sent her with her girlfriend. He calls Clarence. And Clarence said, "Man, L," we call him L. L just called, man. He said, "Priscilla's going to be in town. Look out for her." I guess he just wants somebody to tell him what she's doing. I don't know. And I told her, "You guys were at the Jewel Box place." He knew where we were. He said, "And she should get in touch with us, and you'd show her around." I guess he wanted people he can trust. That's how he was. The guy was great, man, believe me. It breaks some heart talking about it. I get welled up a little bit. Anyway, he calls Clarence, and so we get a call downstairs from, I guess, the house guard or whatever. "Hello? There's Priscilla Presley here to see little Anthony in the Imperials?" true story. And this whoever said, yeah, send her on up. We came up and the word got out. Newspaper people, it was coming every which way.
Yeah.
And we were up there in our suites. We had these room of suites. And she was beautiful. I kind of knew why he was smitten. She was that natural beauty.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good thing that's his wife was. I don't know. Yeah. And that's to look out for her, just like he said. And the funny part about it is Harold Jenkins was in our group. And Harold Jenkins is a great dancer. He was our choreographer as well. We said, Harold, we can't do it. I can't do it. I had to go home, and my wife and my kid, whatever it was, and everybody was busy. Elvis wants to watch out for just escort her around Saks Fifth Avenue and with the Sally, bitch, and bang. And poor Harold, little black kid, is with him like, I don't know what I mean. And he went everywhere. What does Harold do? One of the girls she was with said, what is it? It's just, we want to do something really exciting, something different. Well, Harold being Harold, he says, well, there's a big thing in Central Park. It was when Mayor Lindsay was the mayor of New York, Mayor Lindsay, he did that thing called the smoke out, where you can smoke all the marijuana within the confines of Central Park for that Sunday.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember.
He takes the girls there. Well, of course, they're sitting under a tree. She's not doing anything. She's just marveling at all of this kind of, wow, look at this. They like looking like they were like looking at somebody in some, animal they never seen. And of course, here comes the television people doing a little thing, and they go, they go, crap. And they go, Miss Presley, whatever. Yes, they start interviewing her. And so that night comes on the news, and we said, oh, no, you took us to the smoke out. I was a killer. I tell you, killer. We lost this friendship forever. And I said, you darn me. I'm not going to say the words he said.
I'm sure, but
he was so upset. Everyone going, how could you be that dumb, man? Well, they wanted to go, and the only place I knew was over there. I said, oh, great, he's going to find out. Well, Clarence called him. Well, look, man, before you might hear it, I don't know if this would happen. And he laughed.
Well, the fact that you were able to rub elbows with all of these incredible legends, and understand something, Anthony, you were right there with them.
Yes, I was.
When it comes to legend status, you are right there with them. Let me ask in closing, Anthony, we have all of these young kids that are listening. You have mentioned names that are unbelievable, that are legends that I want them to pause this recording and go back and do the research who a lot of these names were, because the names you mentioned were really the names of the foundation of our music industry. I want the young kids to understand a message. What message would you leave them that would kind of give them a little bit of guidance and hope that they want to be in the music industry, and you with all these years of experience, what would you tell them?
One word, passion, dude. If you're not passionate at what you do, you got to be so hungry and so convinced in yourself, even when others tell you, you're never going to amount to nothing. No, there's other people that you have to have that passion, because in order to, people don't realize that the show business and recording business and whatever, actors or actresses or the arts, it's the most difficult thing in the world profession to take up. I can sincerely say, it ain't book learning, it's life. You go to a college called life, and it's brutal. And sometimes it can be so rewarding and so frustrating. It's killed a lot of people. A lot of people end their lives. They couldn't handle it. And it is you get so, you question who you are, you question, what am I doing? But the one thing will keep you going is the passion for what you do. That passion is the fruit of your, part of how God created us, this spirit he put in us. It's a desire to succeed. Desire so overwhelming that you can go beyond anything that you imagine that says you can't. You can. And then remember, we talked about Sammy Davis. He wrote that book, Yes, I Can. That's really what it is. You're going to find a lot of opposition, failure after failure after failure. You know, they once asked Thomas Edison, news reporters, how does it feel to fail 92 times in an experiment? And he said, I didn't fail the experiment. I just learned what not to do 92 times.
Yeah.
So that's it. You wouldn't be singing, you wouldn't be performing if there was something in there that made you feel, I've got something a little unique and different. People listen to me. Because a lot of times, man, we think we got something and we end up not, we really maybe average. But when you have a passion, you'd be so glad to be in the business. You'd be a backup singer. You would be anything to be on that stage in front of people. Because we as entertainers really need that. It's food for us. That relationship between the audience and ourselves, you feed off of that. At me at 81 years old, I'm just as passionate about it when I was 17. I always tell people there's a 32-year-old man inside me. Please don't tell him he's 81. It would upset him so much.
Well, it's quite obvious, Anthony, because you have the energy of someone much younger than you. You are absolutely still filled with intense passion. And your career, listen, Little Anthony and the Imperials in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will go on forever. As long as there's music, there will be Little Anthony and the Imperials. And the music that you gave us was still so romantic and still so sensitive and still so passionate when listened to today. You did it. You absolutely made it happen. And you came from the golden age of music, and you have seen generations of change, and the wisdom that you have is absolutely inspiring us all.
Well, there's one thing that was said, and that Otis Williams said in that play, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. It was on Broadway. At the end, and I talked to Otis just a couple of days ago, he said something that was so profound. And I told him, what you said, what they had in the play was marvelous. He said, you know, at the end of the play, he turns to the audience and says, there was 24 of us. People didn't know that. And he said, but it doesn't matter. It's about the music, man.
Yeah.
It's about the music. And I work as a solo artist a lot. I've done it before all the time. And I actually call my Little Anthony and the music. Mm. That's what if you see that anywhere, the one thing that I can tell people, man, when you go in to see it, I ain't pulling no punches. It's like, that's what I do. And I was given this supernatural gift of a voice. It's not mine. I call it God's voice, not mine. How do you sing at 81 like this? It's about the music.
Well, that is about as profound as it can be. You have always been about the music, and your music will live forever. Anthony, I thank you so much for your time on behalf of the Artist Series. You are absolutely a national and international treasure. Thank you so much. And I look forward at some point to meeting you in person. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.